From the Workers Credit Union studio at Fitchburg Access Television, I'm Michael Delamonica, and here we are with the Leominster at-large school committee debate. So Leominster, unlike Fitchburg, has a school committee that is organized in wards. So each ward in the city, there's 5 wards, has a ward committee member, and there are 3 at-large seats that are up for vote. And this year, we have 4 candidates running in this local election November 2nd for at-large school committee seats. 4 candidates running for 3 slots. So we have a contested race, and so we have a debate. And 3 of those 4 candidates are here with me today. We have Suzanne Kohler, we have Melissa Bible, and we have Brandon Robbins. These 3 people are incumbents, and they are running for re-election. There is one challenger looking for one of the seats, Salvatore Perla. Mr. Perla did send his regrets. He indicates that due to work commitments that he could not reschedule, that he could not be here this evening, but he sends his regrets. But the show must go on, and we are continuing with the 3 incumbents that have agreed to be here. So I will start off by having you each introduce yourselves to the voters of Leominster. Yes, this is Fitchburg Access Television, and we are producing it in the Fitchburg Access Television studio, but it will be simulcast, or it will be broadcast rather, at Leominster Television on Leominster Local Access TV. So we will start with Melissa Bible, and we'll just go around this way.
Hi, my name is Melissa Bible. I am a mother of 4. 3 with special needs, who's been on the school committee for the last 2 years and has been involved in advocating for funding and resources for the public schools for a number of years.
Great, thanks, Michael. I want to start for thanking you for this opportunity, FATV, FATV, and LTV, who will later air this. I think it's great that school committee candidates are having an opportunity to talk to the voters tonight. My name is Brandon Robbins. I'm a candidate for re-election to an at-large seat on the Leominster School Committee. I'm a 2014 graduate of the Leominster Public Schools, having gone through the public school system my entire life. Due to the experiences that the Leominster Public School gave me, I really wanted to get involved to give back to my community. I personally feel that I would not be standing here today holding this at-large school committee member seat if it wasn't for those experiences. And to me, it's my job now to make sure that the next generation of students, and hopefully I'll have students in these schools one day, and we're making sure that they have the opportunities and more than I had.
Sue Kohler.
Hi, my name is Sue Kohler, and I'm currently in my 28th year serving on the Leominster School Committee. And I'm currently serving as the vice chair. I have several years experience with the Mass Association for School Committees. I've served as the chair of the special ed subcommittee. 2 years ago, I was voted a lifetime member of the Mass Association for School Committees, which gives us a voice in Boston. I'm serving in my 10th year on the CAPS Collaborative Board as the voting member for the Leominster, as a voting member for Leominster, and I'm currently serving as chair of the Finance Subcommittee for the CAPS Collaborative. I served several years on the FLAC Collaborative Board as well, and my motto when I started on the committee 28 years ago hasn't changed. Children are our future. I am also a mother of 3 adult children, 2 that graduated from the Leominster Public Schools, and I'm happy to report they are thriving and doing well. Thank you.
Thank you all. First question. Because of the way that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has been structured since education reform, the role of a local school committee can oftentimes be limited in terms of direct authority. However, our local school committee is still a valuable shaper of policy within a school district, even if sometimes it's indirect. Name one policy that you believe the Leominster School Committee has successfully promoted this last term, and one policy that you feel hasn't been promoted and needs to be. So we will start with Brandon.
Thanks for the question, Michael. I would say the policy that I'm really excited about that we're working on right now and that I have had the honor of drafting myself is the student representative on the school committee policy. This is something that was a goal for me when I came onto the school committee because it's really important that our students who are in the seats in our buildings every single day have the opportunity to share their concerns with us. And oftentimes, coming to a public forum is an intimidating way to do that. This way gives the student rep a seat directly at the table with us, and it makes sure that it's also representative of all of our students, our Leominster High School students, our CTI students, and our LCE students. In regards to policies that I think that we could work stronger on, I think our school now has a remote policy for remote education, and this is because of the state as well. I think we need to continue to give our students options. There are students that really thrived with this model, and unfortunately, because of the decision made by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, that was taken away. I think there are students that would really still thrive with that model, and we should still be looking at ways to offer that to them.
Sure. I totally agree with Brandon on the remote opportunities. I think that's really the direction we should be going in. One of the policies that I'm disappointed in, or I'd like to see promoted more, is the LBGT community, integrating it more into curriculum. A couple years ago, we were pretty strong with that, and now I think it's fallen between the wayside. So I would really like to see more promotion of policy toward that, supporting it. And that's it.
And any past policy of the previous term that you feel that that you are proud of the accomplishment?
Well, we identified, being on the finance subcommittee, we identified fiscal policies. We don't necessarily adhere to them. So I would like to see us do more, enforcing a policy that we set. I think sometimes we get derailed and forget, oh yeah, we're supposed to get financial reports every month and things like that. So that would be my comment on that.
Melissa Bible?
I also agree with Brandon, and having only been on for 2 years, I think we've only had probably a half dozen meetings total in person to work on anything, it feels like, other than COVID. But I would agree the student rep is a huge role that I look forward to seeing have on the committee. One of the things I would like to see us be able to work on more is the issues around equity in our school system. Especially around services and even things like playgrounds that are at our schools. A lot of the funding is coming from PTOs, and the PTOs and school districts are also obviously determined often by neighborhood, and we have varied neighborhoods in our school districts, so various opportunities at different schools, and some of them I think are inequitable currently.
Did you have something to add?
I did. I had written it down and forgot to say it. One of my other concerns is we do have a policy on social promotion, and I don't feel that we enforce that as well either. Teachers were instructed last year due to the pandemic. They were called in and reprimanded for, they were told they can't fail anybody, and I can't support that. As a school system, we have an obligation to promote the kids that deserve it, but we don't have the right to promote people that haven't done the work. So, and it goes along with equity. So,
can I just echo on something that was said as well? Both Sue and Melissa talked about diversity and equity, and these are both two issues that's really important to me. I think, first of all, on the diversity piece, we have a lot of work to do, and it's being talked about, and I think that's important, but we need to continue the conversation about making sure the teachers in front of our students actually look like the students in our classroom, and then the equity piece of ensuring that opportunities that are available at Samoset are available at Skyview and vice versa. versa. I think that that's one of the things that we really struggle with right now, is making sure that no matter where you go to school in Leominster, you get that same opportunity presented to you.
So I've heard some things, some great points being brought about, but just tying into what I said initially, though, when you talk about promotion policy, when you talk about funding, okay, when you talk about hiring, these are issues where oftentimes the school committee has no direct authority, it's mostly indirect. So just, we'll go around, give you each an opportunity to answer. So how, can you put it in words, how as a school committee member you're able to shape those types of ideas? Start with Sue Kohler.
Okay, so don't forget, our role is the policy makers. We're not the policy enforcers. And that's what happens. So we as a school committee make the policies based on what the state, we have state guidelines for policy, but again, it's incumbent on us to make sure those policies are being followed. I find that that's always been a weakness, depending on who's, the superintendent. So to me, that's a struggle, is the enforcement of the policy that we set, or the interpretation for that matter as well. And if they're not interpreted correctly, then we need to go back as a committee and say, okay, why is it not clear? So.
Go ahead, Melissa, Bible.
So I think one of the things that I'd like to see us working on over the 2 years is, I'm a part of the policy subcommittee, but there's 2 of the 4 of us are new members, and I feel like oftentimes the things that come to us are issues that need to be cleaned up in policy or our guidance, but I think there needs to be a discussion within the committee as a whole of the committee's policies and agendas that we want to see over the next 2 years, and not just updating the handbook, which is important, but it needs to be broader, because equity isn't something that you're just going to be able to resolve in a handbook. That has to be a larger discussion, and it has to be a group that's willing to have the discussion and have it be complementary to each other.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I think Sue started to hit on this. I think that above everything else, and to kind of get back to the question you just asked, our biggest role is oversight and hiring the superintendent, right? So that's how we can have that. Right. But the person who's going to enforce that policy is inevitably the superintendent and everybody below her. So I would argue that that's really where we have the greatest direct impact on the policies that our school system functions by. We need to make sure that as a school committee, we make clear what our objectives are, and therefore they go through the superintendent and down to really be implemented.
If I could just add, so you 2 are fairly newer members. Have you gotten a policy book? Well, you're both on the policy subcommittee, but yeah. I think one of the shortfalls on our current committee is the lack of a mentoring program. We used to align somebody, a senior member, with new people. I think that's important, the institutional knowledge. And so, sometimes you're on a committee and, like you just said, you're participating in the dotting the I's and crossing the T's, but not in developing the policy, which, and that's an important piece.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Next question. Both Fitchburg and Leominster throughout the 2020 and 2021 school year were totally remote learning, except for small periods of hybrid and in-person learning. And some districts outside the cities of Leominster and Fitchburg were in-person and hybrid throughout the entire year, no remote learning. Now, so do you agree with your town's choice, and why? And I should make a note that unlike some of the previous debates where we've asked that question, previous school committee debates, you all three of you have a vote on record on this issue. And I believe, and please correct me if I'm misstating this, I'm just going by memory, which can be a dangerous thing. Melissa Bible voted to go hybrid from the outset. Brandon Robbins voted to go remote from the outset. And Suzanne Kohler voted to go hybrid from the outset. And am I 3 for 3?
3 for 3.
Boy,
3 for 3.
All right. So do I get a gold star? So I guess what you can do is explain. So this is a little rare for the school committee debates we're doing. You can each explain and justify your choice and why you believe it was. Do you still believe it was the correct choice? And if so, justify why you made that choice. We will start with, I forgot the order we were going. Let's just start with Suzanne Kohler.
So I feel really strong that children learn best in front of a teacher. And I'm sure Melissa will share this as well. I have a special needs adult son. There's no way he would have survived the remote learning model. And we continue to hear from those parents of those special needs students, and they're the most needy. I wasn't worried about the ones that will survive on remote. I don't want to say I wasn't worried, but I think they're going to rise up and get their work done. But I just think that we should have taken more of a risk in putting the kids back in school and kind of letting the situation evolve, which, we're in today, we're gone tomorrow type of thing. And I just think it would have been better. I think what we've created is a lot of, we didn't create it, but I think the outcome of the whole pandemic and the remote versus hybrid is that children are confused, the socio-emotional issues have come out of this. So, and I think it was very frustrating for teachers. I'm here today, I'm remote tomorrow. And so I just felt it was really challenging. I think the superintendent did a good job of maneuvering those changes. It was a lot. And I think we took a lot of heat on the school committee. No question.
Melissa Bible.
I completely agree with what Sue said. I had 4 children at home during the period, and from my special needs child to my youngest, who was in second grade at the time, we're seeing the effects of all of our decisions of the pandemic. I do feel like there was a plan in place to get kids in, even if it was for a limited amount of time. I felt that initial introduction, those first few weeks, was crucial. And ultimately, we may have ended up shut back down again, but I feel like it was important enough that we needed kids in the classroom, at least for introductions and getting to see each other, and to take the risk knowing there were safety plans in place.
Brandon Robbins, you're the one of the 3 people here that voted for full remote at the outset. So justify your decision, or if you've changed your mind since, explain.
No, absolutely. I stand by the decision that I made when we made the decision. I think, as Sue said, we all agree that kids being in school is the best way for them to learn. There's no question about that. With that being said, I think that DESE and the governor handed local school committees 2 horrible decisions. Your decisions were keeping kids safe from a virus that we knew very little about at the time we made this decision, or providing them with a normal experience but putting them at risk. At that time, we got essentially no direction from DESE on how we should move forward. So, we had a horrible decision in front of us, and, from...
Viewers at home who's DESE just...
sorry, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They're the governing body of our education system. Thank you. We were handed 2 really bad options, and I think my motto from the start has been putting kids first, and I see that as the whole child, and safety is a huge part of that. So that's why I made the decision that I did.
Anybody have anything to add? All right.
We're back.
Absolutely.
Totally agree. Totally
No,
agree.
seriously, and we're going to, we're spending time rebuilding, the devastation to the school system. We've lost teachers. Teachers don't want to come back. There's a crisis with teachers now. I mean, seriously. So it's had some really devastating impact on us locally as well as, everybody nationally.
So if you could wish for one thing, you had that magic wand and you could wish for one thing that the next term's school committee could accomplish, what would that be? Start with Melissa Bible.
I would like to see us be able to work together as a cohesive group in creating plans for having enough staffing for our district and having that be a diverse staff that, as Brandon said, represents our district. I'd like to see us be able to have the space and have it be a clean, safe space for all of our kids. I think our schools, some of them, Fallbrook is in taking steps to improve the building safety, but we have other very old schools that I think need to be evaluated, including Pre-Street, Bennett. So I think returning hopefully to some normalcy, I'd like to see us, especially with a new department head for custodial services, I'd like to see us take a real look at what our structural weaknesses are and evaluating if we also need a new preschool kindergarten building.
Brandon Roberts.
I think I'm going to use the magic wand for funding. I think I feel like my two colleagues here with me would agree. If we had a magic wand and could do anything we want, we're going to use it to get as much funding as possible. In Leominster, we know very well that we're funded in the lowest 10% in the state. And I think that prohibits us from offering the opportunities that districts like us are able to offer. Melissa talked about it before, diversifying our staff. It's going to cost money to do that. We need to attract people to this district, and that needs to be with competitive pay. Reducing our class sizes. We have class sizes that are, close to 30. I think that if we could do things to get more teachers in our buildings, to reduce those class sizes, to better create the one-on-one opportunities with our teachers would be awesome. And then the last thing I'll highlight is just the arts and extracurricular opportunities that Leominster has to offer. I feel like when I graduated in 2014, there was the largest band that Leominster pretty much had ever seen. Our extracurricular opportunities were flourishing, and I feel like since then that has just continued to go downhill. If you look at the band today, I think their numbers are 28. I think when I graduated they were in the 70s. And I think that that's due to the fact that we need more funding to support these opportunities.
All right, before I go to Sue Kohler, though, I got to put one qualification on your magic wand.
Okay.
All right, the money can't come from the sky; it has to come from somewhere. So where's the money coming from?
The state. I think the state needs to do a better job at funding our gateway communities. We got the Student Opportunity Act. Sorry, I was going to use another abbreviation, the SOA. It's great that we got that passed through, but it didn't really have the impact that we were told it was going to have. I hope that now that we have all of these additional dollars from ARPA and ESSER, that these will be monies that we can use for these opportunities that I just talked about.
Sue Kohler.
Okay, so I have 3 goals. The top one is fiscal accountability. Everyone that knows me knows I'm a fiscal accountability guru. And also included in that is the cost effectiveness of the programs that we run. We don't look at the programs enough and determine whether they are beneficial. Is there a cost benefit to having these programs? Expanding the CTI programs, that's a gem in our community. We started with West Boylston. We have students coming here, and we're close to the cap of 40 students from West Boylston. We get an income from them, and we got to share this. We got to, expand our CTI program. Now, that means we need more space, and we did talk a little about that. But something like that, and let's face it, technical education is the wave of the future. And we're lucky that we house such a program in our system. And then the other, important thing I think is we need to improve the student performance on the English language learners and the special ed subgroups. That's always been a challenge. Our population, we have a large population of special ed and English language learners, and I think because of the pandemic, that set them back even further. So I think those are our challenges or things that we should be looking at. And to Brandon's point too, the Student Opportunity Act, the funding did not come. We're hoping to get more funding, but it didn't come. So
I think it's important to note on that too, just the fact that really stemmed from a lack of support from the governor in its first year. Hopefully, with a full, they've rearranged the mechanism to account for the lost year. Basically, it was supposed to be funded over a 7-year period. It's kind of been squished down because of the pandemic. So hopefully that will change things and get some money into the district that we were counting on.
Thank you. Unlike the Fitchburg School Committee, who was featured earlier today in our debate, which has gotten along relatively harmoniously with the mayor and the city council and the city administration, the Leominster School Committee over the past decade has a little bit of a different history. We've seen viral videos and various other snippets of school committee meetings, and there's been some acrimony between the mayor and the school committee. And the mayor, who is a member of the school committee but is no longer chair of the school committee, as a result of that acrimony. So the mayor is going to continue to be on the school committee. How do you see yourself as a contributor to making a more harmonious school committee? What are some specific things that you can do to promote harmony and working together on the school committee? Brandon, go ahead.
I think over the past 2 years, while the school committee has disagreed on opinions of hybrid or remote, various different things, I would say for the past 2 years, the school committee's relationship with each other, including the mayor, because he is a member of the school committee, has been far better than it has been in years past. I think that there are still steps that we can continue to take to increase and enhance that relationship with whoever the mayor is, because I think there is always going to be the conflict of the mayor wearing two hats, right? He wears a school committee hat, but he also at the end of the day is responsible for the entire city's budget. So when he or she puts that hat on, those beliefs or opinions may conflict. So I think just continuing to take steps to strengthen that relationship by reaching out to the mayor so that we know and he knows where we stand and vice versa.
Sue Kohler.
I think the relationship with the mayor has been better because I've lived through the 28 years since Dean's been on the committee. I will say I think one of the biggest challenges was always finances, and I think with the change of leadership in the controller's office, I think we're going to see an improvement in communications to us. I mean, I know on the finance side we have seen significant communication changes. And of course, that'll translate into smoother budgets. I've seen the mayor approve the budgets, and years before he wouldn't approve the budgets. So, he's more participatory in some of those decisions, which he wasn't previously. One of the recent votes, I was shocked, and I actually called him after, and I said, I can't believe you voted on all those salary increases. I was shocked because normally he's very conservative. And so, I've seen him become a little more, lax and, working with everyone.
Melissa Bible, do you agree with that assessment?
I would agree. And I think 2 years ago when I was here, there was a similar question about us having had at times an adversarial relationship. And I think if you asked him, over the 2 years, we've probably both be shocked at how many times him and I have actually agreed on things at times. And so I'd like to think that moving forward, having seen the agreement in that, maybe we sometimes disagree on the wording of things, big picture, we all want the same thing. We all want, all of us on the committee want the best for our kids, the best for our parents. And I think history will show, as we develop it, that there is a branch to communicate. Even today, we saw each other and had a discussion for a few minutes. And I can tell you, 3 years ago, that probably would not have happened. So I think it's creating a path and working toward a mutual goal in that history that's moving us forward.
But of course, well, first of all, before I put my 2 cents in, anybody have anything to add? About anything that anybody said?
No.
No.
I think the key to belonging to a committee of any kind, it doesn't necessarily have to be a school committee, you have to respect people's opinions, diversity. And I guess I've been on a lot of committees and I'm not usually confrontational. So I just think that, we as individual members need to keep that in the back of our mind and promote, the positive, even though sometimes there's negative around. So
And I think it goes even a little bit further than that. And to say that when we do disagree, when a decision is made, it's made with the committee. And unfortunately, whether we agreed with that decision or not, we have to support each other when it comes to that. And I think that's part of where we have struggled in the past. And Grant, again, this is Melissa and I's first term on the committee, but I would say during our first term, it's better than in the years when I was sitting in the audience watching it happen.
well, that's because you're on it now.
I appreciate the compliment.
So one of the substantive disagreements over the years is this, what would seem like a cut and dried statistic, but as a voter in the city of Leominster, I've seen charts and facts and figures that totally manipulate the statistics on both sides, mind you, to say what they want to say. The magic number known as net school spending and the level of Leominster public school spending compared to the net school spending figure. And depending on who you listen to, we're either greatly exceeding it or we're in the absolute bottom 5 communities in the state. And both sides create charts and facts and figures and numbers to totally prove their side, but somebody has to be right. It can't be both a 6 and a 9, as that meme says, okay? So which one is it? What's the truth on net school spending, and are we exceeding it? Are we exceeding it by enough? Or should we be doing more? Are we in the top 5, bottom 5, middle 5? Sue Kohler.
Thank you. So the magic thing with meeting net school spending is how the city issues their direct charges to the school committee or to the school budget. Okay, that's that number that's out there. Now we know what it's for. It's for indirect labor, DPW charges, et cetera. It's for school choice. And all those ancillary services that come out of City Hall. Okay, so it's a number out there. And this year, credit to Michael Statson, we were paying, I think, the city was withholding $5 million out of the city money. And Michael challenged it with his charts. He went over, he got all the paperwork, and guess what? We were overcharged for, I want to say, the pension. And he actually proved it. He's a statistician, so you know what? Good for him. So anyway, we reduced the indirect charge back from 5 million to 4.1 this year, which is wonderful. So the way the city works, that they never, first of all, the city agreement is supposed to be signed by the mayor and the chair of the school committee. Well, that hasn't been done in years. And I think it's going to change now that we have a new city controller, so that's a good thing. So what happens is, the city budget, the school budget goes through, we spend all our money at the end of the year, and then lo and behold, the controller's office puts out this number, and they kind of balance the budget or make it into the adequate net school spending number that we need. So, and that's happened every year since whenever. So when we say that everybody's producing different numbers, there are different numbers. No joke. I mean, the state says, here's your minimum net school spending number. School committee says, well, we know what our budget is and we're going to estimate the chargebacks are 4.1 million. But then the city could come back and say, well, we'll give you 5 million. I mean, seriously, it is a game. But like I said, kudos to Michael Statson, who did challenge the city and got that number we do. I mean, it is what it is. So,
Melissa Bible.
I completely agree with everything Sue said. So other than I'm looking forward to having a new comptroller and things being in black and white writing for everyone to see. I look forward to that. I can't even add anything else to it. I'm so happy with what Sue said. Thank you.
No, I guess the only thing that I would add is, for me, it comes down to a question of priorities and whether Leominster wants education to be a top priority. And I think that is when you get to the different numbers that we're looking at. If you look at the data, a percentage point or two over net school spending then becomes a question to each individual about what the priority is. And I think that some of the things that I talked about earlier about increasing our extracurricular opportunities, our arts opportunities, comes down to whether we have that additional funding to do it. So that's where I think we get to the different numbers that you kind of were referencing before.
I will say to the mayor's credit, he's obviously very fiscally conservative and has a do more with less mentality, which has done well for the city. But for the schools who want to do more for our kids, I think sometimes there's still, from the city perspective, how cheaply can we do that? And that's not always a bad thing, but sometimes you need the paid trained tutor and not always the volunteer who you don't know the background on. Sometimes you need the trained art teacher and not, the first year out of college art student. Things cost money, and it's just a matter of what we want to pay and who's going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
I might just add, can I just add to that?
Just very quickly, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, one of my pet peeves is, as a taxpayer, my taxes have continued to go up. And, and same with the aging population in Leominster. So there's got to be a balance there for the tax levy. And we have a lot of cash that we're sitting on, and that penalizes us on some of the reimbursements at the state. That needs to be looked at. And that's a conversation with the city council, whatever. But and hopefully with the new controller, who I think will have a handle on that. But it is frustrating.
All right, folks. Well, we've come to the end of our time together. Closing statements. So we will start with Melissa Bible, 2 minutes each.
Oh, so thank you again for having us. I would just want to say, even though it's been a very difficult 2 years, I've enjoyed working with families and teachers and staff in the district, and I look forward to continuing that opportunity. I think I try to be a person who is approachable and has been through and is still going through many issues that families in our community are going through. And I hope to continue to be the person that you can reach out to. So I appreciate your vote. I appreciate your support. And I really look forward to another upcoming 2 years.
Brandon Robbins.
Great. Again, Michael, I want to start by thanking the entire team at FLAP-TV, FATV, and LTV for organizing this forum for us. Again, my name is Brandon Robbins, and I'm a candidate for re-election to an at-large seat on the Leominster School Committee. Years ago, my father, Lee Robbins, a 42-year dedicated employee of the Leominster Water Department, took me to the seat of local government, the City Council chambers. Losing my dad earlier this year brings this memory to the forefront of my mind quite often, as it planted the seed for me for the importance of public service in our city that he loves so much. Graduating in 2014, I had an amazing opportunity in my final year at Leominster High School to interact with local government again. It was an opportunity that inspired me to run for local office and to ensure Leominster is putting kids first in every decision that we make. Over the past 2 years as a school committee member, I've worked hard to ensure that I'm going above and beyond my call of duty. In addition to attending our regular meetings, I volunteered for various opportunities that allow me to advocate as a voice for students, parents, teachers, and staff. I not only served as the member that worked directly with the Leominster Education Association in their contract negotiations, I'm the only member now who's working with Attuned in developing the strategic vision for the future of the Leominster Public Schools. I've worked hard to ensure that I'm accessible to families and members of the public. Individuals wanting to reach me have always been able to send an email, make a phone call at 978-870-9457, or send a Facebook message, where it's been my goal to get back to people as soon as possible. While I do believe there's so many amazing opportunities that we're providing in the Leominster public school system, I believe there's still work to be done. I talked about it earlier, from diversifying our staff to look more like the students in our classroom, to increasing funding to bring back our strong art programs and more. I want to continue being the voice at the table that will ensure that Leominster is putting kids first. I ask for your vote when you head to the polls on November 2nd, or you send in your mail-in ballot. Thank you.
I would like to thank FLAP-TV as well for hosting this. And I also want to thank the voters in Leominster for putting me in office for 28 years. And I hope I did a good enough job that you can put me in for another 2 years. I started this back in 1993 with Ed Reform, and you talked about the changes to the school committee. So that was the year I got on. And I view myself as a mentor. I've got exorbitant institutional knowledge, and I feel as a senior member of this committee, it's important for me to impart my wisdom and share perspectives with the younger people, and I enjoy working with the younger people, and I do hope that, you know, the voters in Leominster will put me back in for another 2 years. Thank you.
I appreciate being referred to as one of the younger members, too. Thank you.
I know.
All right, well, just to recap, City of Leominster voters, November 2nd is Election Day, and we get horrendously low turnouts in local races, and it's most likely the local elected officials who affect your lives more than the president or even some senators and congress people. Yet local elections are such poor turnout. So again, November 2nd this year, one of the races will be this at-large Leominster School Committee race, in which the entire city of Leominster will get to choose from 4 candidates. 3 of them are here this evening, and they shared their views on things. They shared areas where they agreed and where they disagreed, and areas in which they feel that the Leominster schools can become an even stronger unit than they already are. So I just invite you to research the candidates, to take in this debate, check out Facebook pages to the extent that they're out there, and any other sources that you choose, and make an informed decision this November 2nd. Thank you.